So, there's a moment in every NBA season where a team stops being a project and starts becoming a legit threat. All the skeptics go quiet. The narrative starts to shift, as now it's more about, can these guys actually make a push, rather than, oh, they're still building so they aren't really anything serious. Right now, we're seeing that in real time with the San Antonio Spurs. Currently, they sit at second in the Western Conference, only 2.5 games behind the OKC Thunder, and are on a 9-game winning streak. And if you've been watching the games, instead of just looking at box scores and highlights, you would know that this isn't a fluke whatsoever. This is a team that has built the right system, made sure they had a strong foundation, and have built a core of players that make each other better in so many ways that it creates problems for any team they match up against. If you ask me, the core four I'm talking about are Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, Stephon Castle, and Dylan Harper. These four all possess different skill sets, and in the past, when you put together players with so much skill, it's almost like a couple of them will regress, but that's not what's happening in San Antonio. Some people might not want to admit it, but the truth is that the Western Conference is in trouble, as the Spurs aren't just trying to win in the short term, they're building something that could dominate for the next decade. Before we dive into what each player does individually, we need to understand the ecosystem they've created. Because on paper, you could look at this roster and think it's just a collection of talent. Wemby, he's obviously generational. Fox, well, he's a proven all-star. Castle, he's a promising young guard. And Harper, he's a rookie with major potential. But let's be honest, that's just surface level talking and doesn't shine a light on why this actually works. When looking deeper into it, the Spurs have built their offense around one simple principle. No player needs to do everything. So every player can be elite at what they do best. Wemby doesn't need to create off the dribble for 30 possessions a night because Fox is collapsing the defense with his speed. Fox doesn't need to be a lockdown defender because Castle can take the toughest perimeter assignment every night. And with that said, Stephon doesn't need to be a primary playmaker because Harper's already reading defenses and making the right pass. And for Dylan, he doesn't need to score 20 points per game because the team as a whole contributes to make up the total. A system like this, where every strength of a player gets maximized, helps hide each player's weakness, and when you have 4 players who can operate at a high level at the same time without stepping on each other's toes, this is when you have an offense that becomes entirely too hard to scheme against. Like, let me ask you this, how do you prepare for a team that can beat you in multiple different ways, while they all buy in on the defensive end as well? Yeah, it's quite hard, isn't it? Say you want to take Wemby out the game, well, Fox can push the pace with that speed to get to the basket before your defense is even set. Then let's say your defense is set up, well, that's when you give it to the man that can see over everyone and let him cook in the way he decides. If you then make it hard for both of those options to work, well, that's when you have a relief option in Castle who can make himself available within the offense to get a bucket in close. And then when you just want some calmness within that fire, that's when you let the young rook showcase his feel for the game with his reads that keep the offense flowing. See what I mean? There's no good answer for the defense. Every adjustment they make just creates a new problem, as every coverage has a consequence. As we all know, that first consequence is Victor Wembanyama. So far this season, Wemby is averaging 24 points, 11 rebounds and 2 blocks, while shooting 50% from the field and knocking down 35% of his 3-pointers. Those numbers right there are absurd, considering that he's been on minutes restriction majority of the season. But what's even crazier is that they still undersell the actual problem he creates. Because Wemby isn't just scoring efficiently, he's changing the shape of the game when he's on the hardwood. Anytime he touches the ball, the spacing shrinks. Help defenders will arrive earlier than they're supposed to. Mistakes that would normally be recoverable suddenly become catastrophic. And the game doesn't speed up when Wemby's out there, as instead it tightens. And that tightness is what creates advantages for everyone else. Most people won't really notice it, but the way he operates is almost methodical. When Wemby catches at the elbow, what I like to call his work desk, the possession doesn't feel rushed whatsoever. He's not moving frantically or urgently scanning the floor for help defenders, he's simply just waiting. And what catches defenders off guard is that waiting is a trap. Because while he's standing there calmly holding the ball, defenses are scrambling in their head about what they should do next. Do we send help now, or do we wait for him to make a move? Do we crowd him or give him space to shoot? Do we switch or do we stay home on our man? In that exact moment when they finally commit to an answer is when Wemby exploits it. If they overcrowd him, he's dropping off passes to cutters. If they give him space, he's rising up for a mid-range butterball or launching threes from 27 feet. And then if they send multiple defenders, he's seeing the entire floor and making the right read before the defense can even recover. There's almost no look that knocks Wemby completely off his game, and I know it's still early in his career, but every choice leads to an advantage for San Antonio. Having a guy like this gives you the upper hand every time you step on the floor, and if you were trading on Polymarket when they beat the Pistons, you would have won big. As when the Spurs came out hot, I knew the Pistons would fire back as they've been on a roll winning their last 5 games. So when they went up 35-29 in the second quarter, I traded in at 47% odds for the Spurs. With Wemby, Stephon Castle, and Devin Vassell combining for 36 points in the second half, while holding the Pistons to just 32% shooting, I waited until the Spurs took the lead going up 100-87 in the fourth to then cash out at 92% odds for a 95% profit. If you want to trade in and out of games like I do in all 50 states, make sure you download the app from the link in my description to get to the top of the waitlist. Now what makes Wemby so unique is that he's not limited to just one area on the floor. Most 7-footers live in the paint and mainly post up, catch lobs, and simply put, just finish around the rim. But Wemby, he operates from everywhere. He's shooting 44% from the mid-range this season, which completely breaks the defensive game plan of forcing him away from the basket. Also, he's comfortable facing up and attacking off the dribble, where he's converted 85% of his driving dunks and 76% of his driving layups. And then if you want to take things even further, he's confident pulling up from 3 when defenses give him room, as he's comfortably knocking down 35% of these. And man, oh man, it doesn't just stop right there, as he's still a dominant rim runner and a lob threat when the Spurs decide to push the pace. That versatility is what makes him almost impossible to scheme against. And remember, he's just the head of the snake, as when Wemby's providing that wow factor, De'Aaron Fox is the gas that gets things lit. Sure, we know the Spurs franchise is a team that operates in the half court and whatnot, but once you got Fox, he ups the pace a ton, as the Spurs play at 103.7 pace when he's in the game, which would put them at second in the league when he's on the floor. Yeah, it's a different game when Fox is out there, as he isn't your traditional point guard. Basically, he's a track star who happens to be good at putting the ball in the basket. For defenders, they can't even blink or else he'll be at the rim before they even know it, and that speed isn't just about highlights or fast break dunks. It's about creating advantages for the team before the defense is in the correct position to guard them. When Fox starts attacking, the pressure he puts on the defense makes them go into scramble mode, as you'll see late rotations, collapse schemes, and by the time they get their together, the Spurs have already generated a quality look at the rim. While this is a huge thing for the team, what makes Fox truly dangerous is how he manipulates defenders even when the game slows down. His first step forces you to retreat, and in that moment you do, he's rising into a pull-up jumper that he's sharpened year after year. Then for the flip side of things, if you press up tight to take away that jumper, well, he's already past you, collapsing the defense and either finishing at the rim or finding the open man when help rotates over. The different ways in how he scores is what makes him one of the toughest covers in the league, and remember, he isn't a guy that needs a screen to get downhill, nor does he need a mismatch, as long as he knows where he wants to go, he'll get there, and there's almost nothing you can do about it. This season, Fox is converting 43% of his pull-ups in the mid-range, 66% of his attempts in the restricted area, and even when he decides to shoot it from deep, it's not that he's the best shooter, as he's only knocking these down at a 34% rate, but the thing is, he's not afraid to let it fly, and that right there forces the defense to respect every part of his game. Pair all of that with Wemby, and that's when things get even more dangerous. Because while Fox can make things chaotic, Wemby can capitalize on it, and then now is when you throw in the glue with Stephon Castle. Because in today's NBA, you can't just have guards that solely score. You need a guard on your team who can not only put up buckets, but can also go down to the other end of the floor to sit down and make things hard for opposing stars. In just his second year, Castle is a key guy for the Spurs who can shift energy on both sides of the ball at any point in the game. He's someone who can make things messy defensively, and when that happens, it turns into highlight slams like this. Taking the ball from a player to then go throw it on a windmill isn't just a major highlight, it's a momentum shift for San Antonio. Now I get it, although his high-flying nature brings excitement for the fans, the main thing that makes him so valuable is that he doesn't need the ball in his hands to still be an impactful player. When you look around the league, most guards will feel left out when they aren't getting as many touches as they desire, but Castle is just different. He thrives by moving without the ball, by cutting at the right times, and it's in those vulnerable spots of the defense that he places himself to score much easier. Even if he's not cutting to the rim, Castle is becoming much more confident in that three-point shot, so he can also be a spot-up option for the team, and then when he does get the ball in his hands, this adds even more upside to his game. We all know that he can be a glue piece for the squad without needing the ball, but then when you add in that he's able to attack off the dribble to get inside, this takes things up another level. His 6'6", 215-pound frame allows him to use his size to his advantage, such as bumping defenders, creating separation with contact, and angling his drives in such ways to draw fouls or finishing through pressure. The shooting, like I said, is still a work in progress, but he's not hesitating when he gets clean looks, which is a good sign. And when that shooting fully develops, Castle is going to be a major problem. Because right now, defenses can sometimes live with sagging off, but once that three ball is dropping, it'll pretty much be a pick your poison situation when defenders match up with them. Two-way threats like this bring a lot of value to your team. And just when the opposing team thought they had enough problems, you didn't have to worry about the emerging rookie and Harper. Now I get it, he's only averaging 11 points and 3 assists per game, but Harper is much better than the numbers suggest. When you actually watch him play, you'll quickly notice that he has an amazing feel for the game with the pace that he plays at, and that for a rookie, his game is much more polished than most would expect. I honestly think it's insulting to grade rookies off their numbers alone and all the talk that the media may have, so I got something for you. I personally love Dylan's game so much that I want to save this part of the video for you all to go watch this dedicated analysis over his skill. Click this video on the screen if you want a deeper dive into his game and all the other San Antonio players. And in the comments, I want to talk to you all about the synergy of the Spurs and how far do you think they can go in the playoffs.